Good morning everyone. Tara, basa na tayo ng ating libro guys. Kapwa ka Filipino, magbasa na tayo ng ating sariling history book, History of the Filipino People by Agoncillo and Guerrero. Today is 10 March 2023, History of the Filipino People, Part 6, The Third Republic. Topic number 25, The Hukbalahap Movement. Nandito na tayo sa paragraph, The Hukbalahap Sovereignty. Basa. The Hukbalahap Sovereignty. The High Command of the Hukbalahap imposed an iron discipline on all its members. There was no excuse for deviation from the rigidity of the rules and regulations that made the movement the most disciplined and powerful in the country during the enemy occupation. That this discipline was real can be goods from the execution of Dayang Filipa Colala by her own men when it appeared that she was endangering the movement by her deviation from the rules of the organization. There is no accurate list of men liquidated by the Hukbalahap in the name of unity, but it is probably safe to assume that hundreds were killed. Among them were non-members who were suspected of giving aid and comfort to the enemy. The unity and the discipline of the men and women under the influence of the Hukbalahap made Central Luzon and a few other provinces outside the region a Huk territory. The towns and the municipal government were in the hands of the Huks, who saw to it that peace and order reigned in their respective areas. When war broke out and the Japanese occupied the country, the landlords and their families evacuated to Manila. The peasants took over the land of the absentee landlords. This was the beginning of a new era for them. They had freedom and there was plenty of food. Many of the landlords who had been accustomed to pushing the peasants around and to exploiting them refused to return to their provinces for fear of being liquidated by the Huks. Such a situation naturally led to secret ill feeling toward the Huks, while the latter, on the other hand, felt that their landlords had it coming to them and deserved their fate. This mutual feeling of hatred, as will be seen later, exploded into armed skirmishes which were bloody enough to be narrated in detail. One who had lived in Central Luzon during the enemy occupation cannot fail to observe the effectiveness of the Huk resistance movement. Huk squadrons, each of which being the equivalent of half a battalion, fought hit and ran battles with the Japanese and killed hundreds of them. So effective was the Huk resistance movement that the Japanese feared them more than they did the other guerrilla units. Thus, the Central Plains became a Huk reserve, and while outwardly the Japanese were in command, actually the area recognized Huk sovereignty. Liberation of and imprisonment. The American landing in Lingayen in January 1945 was opportune, for the guerrillas had already cleared out the Japanese obstacles. The Huks, as the most potent guerrilla outfit, had a struggling Japanese in flight. In mid-January, they liberated much of Tarlac, and on the 28th they assaulted and captured the capital of the province. They hoisted the Filipino and American flags and waited for the arrival of the first American contingents. Meanwhile, some squadrons attacked the towns of Pampanga, including San Fernando, and immediately placed them under their administration. Municipal government immediately functioned under Huk auspices, and on January 28, 1945, Casto Alejandrino was elected provisional governor of Pampanga. In Nueva Ecija, Juan Peleo was elected governor. When the American units turned to Cabanatuan to liberate the Americans concentrated there, they found the Huks ahead of them and had already secured the town for them. When on February 5 the Americans entered Manila in force, they promptly disarmed the Huk squadrons that had entered the city ahead of them. The Huks refused to be disarmed and left for Pampanga. They were, however, halted by American MPs beyond the city limits and forcibly disarmed. Successively, the Huks in Obando and Maykawayan, Bulacan. Iba pa yung spelling ng Maykawayan, guys. And Maykawayan, Bulacan were also disarmed for no reason at all. Further indignity was heaped upon the Huks when Squadron 77, while passing through Malolos on their way to Pampanga, were waylaid by the men under Colonel Adonais Maclang of Malolos, Bulacan, seized, thrown into jail, and shot to death with the knowledge of the American MPs. Together with the enlisted men who had joined the squadron earlier, there were probably 160 men in all, of whom only 30 lived to tell the grim story. Maclang was later appointed mayor of Malolos. Almost simultaneously, the Americans, for no apparent reasons, arrested Huk leader Linda Bie, B.I.E. Silvestre Liwanag. Yung kanyang totoong pangalan is Silvestre Liwanag, who had with his squadrons helped the Americans in the capture of the Florida Blanca airfields. His men were disarmed, and when he was ordered to surrender his revolver, he cried. He refused to surrender his weapon, but one of his men did it for him. Linda and his men were told that the use of guerrillas, whom the Huks described as Tolisafi, had accused them of all kinds of crimes. They were then led in the San Fernando jail. They escaped, however, the following day and immediately reported the matter to Taruc. Meanwhile, the Philippine Civil Affairs Unit PCAU of the American Army proceeded to remove all municipal officials elected by the Huks and replaced them with Yusafi guerrillas, who were the keen rivals of the Huks. There followed a series of arrests and disarming of the Huks. They were imprisoned by the American Counter-Intelligence Corps (CIC) and American Air Corps Colonel Gwen G. Atkinson, who was saved by the Huks and treated kindly, remonstrated, and went to MacArthur to defend his benefactors. I don't care even if they are communists, he said. I saw how they treated American flyers, and I saw how the people followed them, but he was ignored, and the mass arrest of the Huks continued. Tinitingnan ko kung kasya po ba yung oras natin. Okay. Bilisan ko na lang. The Arrest of Taruc. The mass arrest of the Huks reached its peak on February 22, 1945, when the CIC arrested the members of the Huk General Headquarters and jailed them in San Fernando, Pampanga. One of those arrested was Luis Taruc. There was naturally bitterness among the peasants, for no formal charges were preferred against the Huk leaders. On March 8, the Americans released Taruc and another leader. The rest, however, were taken to Muntinlupa. A month later, on April 8, Taruc and his companion Castro Alejandrino were rearrested and jailed. They were transferred to Calasiao. 2 days later, then to Bilibid in Manila, and finally to Puerto Princesa, Palawan. Here, Taruc mixed with the high officials of Laurel's government who were branded collaborators by the CIC and jailed. It is significant to note that neither MacArthur nor the rival guerrilla units were able to file charges of crimes against Taruc and his men. The Huks accused the Yusafi guerrillas of poisoning the minds of the Americans against them and of actually intriguing to have them liquidated by the Americans. More significantly, Taruc accused the landlords of having instigated the move against the Huks in order to wreak vengeance on them and primarily to disorganize the Huk movement for their landlords' benefit. Whatever the truth or untruth of the accusations, the fact remains that the Huks who had fought in the underground now appeared to be persecuted by the very ally that they expected to help them. This fact is crucial in assessing the Huk movement for such arrest and imprisonment done highly or wrongly. Led the Huks to suspect that there was a concerted move to liquidate them and to force them into a way of life under the aegis of the landlords. The imprisonment of Taruc gave rise to a wave of discontent among the peasants and the liberal intellectuals. Ulitin ko guys. The imprisonment of Taruc gave rise to a wave of discontent among the peasants and the liberal intellectuals. On September 23, 1945, some 50,000 peasants and workers marched to Malacanang and demanded the release of Taruc and his companions. 2 days later, GY was released. Taruc was released on September 30. Bukas ko nabasahin itong Rojas and the Huks for March 11, 2023. Alang tulog na lang. Pinas na tayo. Hindi ko kayang basahin to hanggang 14 kasi marami pa siya naiwan. Dalhin ko na lang siguro to sa Pinas para basahin natin doon. Bye everyone. God bless.